At the end of George Washington's second term, our country's political makeup was at its infancy. Instead of saying a formal speech, he decided to make it into an address for all the people to hear. He did this so his words could reach out to all the people of the United States. He used his previous address from the first term, but had Alexander Hamilton perfected for the present time. In Washington's address, he communicated the importance of nation over party. He highlighted the importance of unity and peace. His address built confidence in the people and in the new form of government. He left orders and ideas for the following president and people. He gave the country a plan for the present and the future of this country. The address helped the transition of power to president, not king. This address is still brought up in present situations. The U.S. was trying to find a place in the world for itself during the beginning stages of our country. The people decided to elect George Washington to be the first president of the United States. They chose him because he led America in the Revolutionary War, which we won to bring freedom to the United States. He was also part of the Continental Congress that wrote us the Constitution of the United States. In his first term, Washington spent most of his time defining the executive branch and setting up the government. Towards the end of his first term, he contemplated retirement and selected James Madison to write him a farewell speech. But with the encouragement of the country and politicians, he decided to hold on to Madison's address and not retire. George Washington was elected again and served his second term as president. He would spend a difficult second term preserving the nation. Washington's second term was starting to come to an end. Washington was aging and he decided to not run for president again. After saying he would not be the president for a third term, George Washington stated there should be a term limit of only 2 terms for president. He believed it should not be a lifelong task, hence a president, not a king. He wanted to address the people about his retirement and concerns for the United States. He used James Madison's copy to address the nation of his retirement. Before the publication of his article, George Washington asked Alexander Hamilton, an aide of George Washington, to revise and edit the address so it fit the present time. Once Alexander completed his edit, GW finalized his thoughts and opinions on the address. He decided to put it in an article for the newspaper rather than a speech so the whole nation will be able to recognize it, and for the future reference of the address. The address was then published on September 19th, 1796, on Philadelphia's American Daily Advertiser. This address made it a cleaner transition of power and set a stage for the next United States of America's president. It also built confidence in the people for the future of the United States. Throughout the address, George Washington acknowledged his retirement, concerns, advices, and orders for the United States. In the first paragraph, Washington stated a lot about his retirement and what the nation would do without him. He thanked the people of the United States for their encouragement to help him with the challenges and criticism he faced as their president. He promised the people prayers and thoughts for the country and the preservation of liberty and justice. He wished the best for the country's future presidents and political leaders. In the next paragraphs, he stated the importance of national unity. He knew that the nation loved liberty and pushed unity was required to preserve America's independence. He wanted the people to put the nation over party. He reminded what's best for a party is not what's best for the country. After this, he expresses that the government of the people should not be so powerful. He wanted the people to have a voice in the government's decisions and actions. He announced that any person should have more power than the government. The following paragraph suggested that the leaders in each branch of government should not carry out any occupation outside of their branch. He stated that no branch would be more powerful than another.
The next paragraphs are written for the significance of support from religion and mortality in the government. He says both politicians and citizens should rely on religion, education, and mortality. Without these freedoms, our court's justice will fail, he said. Following those paragraphs, the point about good credit and paying national debts are important. He advised that the government should be grateful for its right to borrow money, but must return the money. The next point he argued about is that honesty and justice in international relationships are important. He pointed out that the nation must keep its word to all nations, and that is the way to keep peace between countries. The last point of his address is the caution concerning fake patriotism and foreign influence. He stated that a country shall not have favored allies, but have equal allies. If you have a favorite ally, that will bring jealousy from the less favored countries. To end the address to the United States people, he concluded with a final regard to his country. He said, "My countrymen, this friendly advice will likely not make the impact I wish given human nature and the usual course of nations, but I hope it will help to moderate partisan rivalry, warn against foreign intrigue, and guard against pretended patriotism." He goes on to say that he had hoped he had succeeded as their president, but the country's history will slouch if he did well. Again, he states, "I have unswervingly remained neutral in the current war in Europe, as I proclaimed in April 1793, in spite of efforts to change my mind. Every nation involved has essentially admitted that we have the right to take this course. The main reason for neutrality has been to gain time for a national institution to mature so we can chart our own course." He admits that he didn't want to err while their president, but most likely has due to his lack of experience. He says he prays to God that God will avert any evil which may result in such errors. To add on to the error subject, he states after 45 years of service to the nation, "I hope that I will be gracious in forgetting my errors, as undoubtedly I will soon be laid to rest. I am relying on American kindness and motivated by deep love for my native soil as I return to Mount Vernon." After that, he said that he will share the benefits of good laws and under the free government. That was his favorite object in his heart, and the happy reward of our mutual cares, labors, and dangers. This address brought significance in unity. The people would listen to Washington and remain unified to try to preserve the country. The address would bring a clear transition of power between presidents. It allowed a clear transition of power because George Washington made it clear he wanted what's best for the country. He wanted what's best for the following presidents behind him, so he made it clear that he would do his best to pass on the power to the following president. He wanted to be unified and not split into two. George Washington, in his address, built confidence in the people in the new form of government. The United States was still at its beginning points, and this form of government was new. By communicating with the people and speaking about specific topics, it built confidence. It also built confidence because it showed that the leaders of the U.S. knew how to run a country. Involving presidents, the address also was laying down that a president should be a two-term job, not a lifelong task like a king. He felt a person should not have a power for a whole life. Instead, he believed it should be an 8-year job. He set a stage for a newly elected president. He wanted to show his leadership and was putting in place that the following president would have to lead, communicate, and respect the United States of America's people. It is now a reference for the government to come back for a major crisis in the United States. At the end of George Washington's second term, our country's political makeup was at its infancy. In Washington's address, he communicated the importance of nation over party. This address built confidence of the people for a new form of government. He left orders and ideas for the upcoming presidents. He gave the country a plan for its time and set aside a plan for its future. It helped the transition of power and set a stage for a president, not a king. George Washington wanted to thank the people for electing him as the first United States president. He wanted to give advice, tell his concerns, and wanted to talk about the past and present of the country. It would bring the focus of people to the country's worries, problems, and issues. Washington's farewell address helped the people to stay unified, cleaner transition of power, set a stage for the next United States president, and help the people. It is also important because it gave a fair warning that if the country would not be unified, good allies to other countries, and not put nation over party, the country will not succeed.